We tend to remember history's big revolutionaries, right? But what about the quiet managers? The ones who steer the ship through absolutely transformative times without, rocking the boat. Today, we're going to dive into the era of Hu Jintao, the really reserved leader who presided over China's explosive global rise.
Okay, this quote right here is everything. In a country that's known for pretty dramatic upheaval, this transfer of power was, well, it was orderly, it was planned, it was almost silent. And that's the real puzzle of the Hu Jintao era. How on earth did such a massive transformation happen so quietly? And at the heart of this whole quiet transition was Hu Jintao himself. He wasn't a revolutionary firebrand. He was a reserved technocrat, an engineer by training. His style was measured, not charismatic. And it's this contrast, the quiet man and the absolutely earth-shattering changes of his decade, that makes his story so compelling.
So how does a leader like this even get made? Well, his path to power wasn't through fiery speeches or leading movements. It was a slow, steady, and very disciplined climb through the ranks of the Communist Party.
Just look at this path. He starts out as an engineer. His whole career is about administration, not revolution. He proves himself by managing these incredibly complex and sensitive regions like Guizhou and Tibet. So by the time he reaches the Politburo Standing Committee, which is China's top decision-making body, he really represents a whole new kind of leader, one who's focused on effectiveness, not so much ideology.
So once he's in power, Hu needed a plan. And, true to his engineering roots, it wasn't some revolutionary slogan. It was a blueprint, basically, designed to manage the aftershocks of China's recent economic explosion.
The core of his plan was called the Scientific Development Concept. Sounds a bit technical, right? Well, that's because it was. The goal was no longer just growth for growth's sake. It was all about balance. How do you keep the economy booming without, tearing society apart at the seams?
This was a direct fix for the problems that came out of the 90s boom. I mean, that explosive growth had created some serious fractures in society. You had massive inequality between the thriving coastal cities and the rural areas that got left behind, sure, but also widespread unrest, terrible pollution, and a healthcare system that was totally strained. This plan was all about bridging those gaps, investing in the people and the places that had been forgotten. It was really a strategy for cohesion, an attempt to hold the country together.
Okay, so that was the plan. But did it actually work? Well, let's take a look at the results. And honestly, they were monumental.
This just shows you the incredible speed of change. The 2008 Olympics was basically China's global coming out party. That huge stimulus during the financial crisis, a real flex of its new economic muscle. And then 2010, China becomes the world's second largest economy. All of this happened in just 10 years.
The numbers here are just staggering. To put this into perspective, China's economy more than quadrupled in size during his time in office. That's like adding the entire economy of Germany twice. This isn't just growth, it's an economic explosion. And it all happened on his watch.
And it all comes down to this, number 2. Overtaking Japan wasn't just a number on a chart. It was a seismic shift in the global economy. He created a new world order that, frankly, we're all still grappling with today.
But this economic boom is only half the story. To really understand his legacy, we've got to look at the other side of the coin. What were the trade-offs of all this managed stability?
And this right here is the core tension of his rule. On one hand, you have an economy opening up to the world, more trade, more foreign investment, cities that seem to just spring up overnight. But on the other hand, you had a political space that was actually closing. This meant tighter media control, the rise of the Great Firewall to censor the internet, and a much more powerful state security apparatus to handle any dissent. The unwritten bargain was pretty clear: prosperity in exchange for political silence.
His personal style really mirrored his politics. He was famously reserved, always putting the collective ahead of himself. There was no cult of personality here. The goal was to make the system, not the man, the star of the show.
So his era was all about consolidation. He wasn't a revolutionary.
His job was to be the steady hand on the tiller, guiding the ship of state through some incredibly turbulent waters and preserving stability above all else. This sums up his historical role perfectly. Not the engine of change, but the manager of momentum. Not the creator of wealth, but the steward of growth. And, most importantly, the guardian of continuity. His legacy is the endurance of the system itself.
So what do we make of the quiet leader of a very loud decade? His story really challenges our modern obsession with disruption. It forces us to ask, in a world of constant, non-stop change, what is the real price of stability? And is it a price worth paying?